public's continuing to call time on the suffering of little Tarnika Murugappan, forced to spend her 4th birthday in a Perth hospital battling blood poisoning.
Sick, frightened and separated from her father and her dear sister.
And the government's starting to feel the squeeze, with yet another MP today breaking ranks to demand the family's release from their gruelling 3-year detention.
People who were born in Australia must have some sort of right to stay here. Tanika and Kapika didn't buy this ticket. Send them to Sri Lanka. Why not send them to Southern Sudan? Send them to Rwanda. Send them to Belarus, because they're also countries they're never born in.
But it seems even those at the top are conflicted, with the PM hosing down hope.
Well, that wouldn't be government policy for a pathway to permanent settlement. That is not the government's policy.
And the acting PM resurrecting it.
Alex Hawke will make that announcement this week. He will base it on humanitarian considerations, on health outcomes and on legal advice. 9
peak medical bodies have written an open letter begging the government to release the girls to prevent extreme risk to their developmental and mental health, with doctors adamant the family at least be reunited.
Well, we take our advice from the Chief Medical Officer of the Department of Home Affairs. So those issues are always carefully considered in all of these sensitive cases, and indeed will be on this occasion.
Today, what looked like a small win,
well, as I understand, they are being reunited in Perth as we speak,
turned out to be a cruel mistake, with reports the acting PM misspoke.
They did hear of it, and, so that's why it's a bit of a shame, really, that this information is sort of blurted out at a media conference rather than going directly to the family, the ones who are involved here.
Late this afternoon, the emotional rollercoaster ride continued, with reports the government could remove the family from detention altogether as early as tomorrow. But in the centre of this political crisis is a family in trauma. Sick, separated, broken. Desperate for the chance to finally piece their lives back together and begin to heal.
Dr Andrew Miller is the president of the WA Australia Medical Association and joins us now. So, Andrew, you're involved in that peak body, the 9 medical peak bodies we mentioned, who wrote that open letter warning of extreme risk to the developmental and mental health of the girls in this situation. Can you just expand on that? What sort of damage are you talking about there?
Well, when a mum and dad get given the greatest gift of a beautiful little baby, we know we've got 3 golden developmental years starting right there for their mental health, their emotional health and safety, and for their connection to the world around them. And we know that if there's trauma during that time, then that can have long-lasting, not only mental health, which is pretty obvious impacts, but also physical impacts on their development and their health in later life. That's very clear. So having gone into detention at 9 months, having never spent a birthday outside of a jail, we have grave fears for the damage being done to this child and to her family.
Oh, it's absolutely heartbreaking, Andrew. What kind of toll would the flip-flopping and the division within the government in terms of decision-making what kind of toll would it be taking on the family as well?
Well, if you take this family, they will have tried to wrap a cocoon around their children, these 2 parents, and they would have done the best they can inside this jail facility, and they would have formed an incredible bond, probably tighter than most nuclear families. And suddenly one of your kids is sick. You're not sure what's wrong with them. You're not really getting the attention that you want. And then the worst news comes, we actually think it's pretty serious. We've got to fly them thousands of kilometres away to a big hospital down there, but we're going to split you up. You lived together the whole time because of what we've done to you, but now we're going to split you apart. So the post-traumatic stress disorder that we can expect for this will be just in ripples throughout the years for all of them, and we can only hope that the healing process will start sooner than later.
Andrew, it makes no sense for so many of us. Why do you think the government have kept these kids in detention for so long against all medical advice?
Well, I think they've been pretty open about why they're doing it. I think they're using these little kids and their family as a human shield as part of border controls to have a tight border policy. But in any situation, if your policy depends on locking up innocent people, particularly tiny little children, for an indefinite period, the policy's wrong, the decisions are wrong, the government's wrong, and on a human level, you've got to look at the outcomes here and just say, no, not for them, not for anyone, not ever again. Anywhere, let alone in our country, can we let this happen. Stop it now.
Andrew, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So to the political side of this equation now, and hearing that a decision is imminent tomorrow, we don't know what that decision would be necessarily, but it sort of has to happen, doesn't it? There has to be a circuit breaker.
Well, the government's got to find a political solution now. I mean, they're turning on themselves. There's a number of frontbenchers and backbenchers who've said that they want this family released from detention. As a country, a few years ago, we all decided that we didn't want children in detention. We all agreed on that, and all of the detention children were freed except this family, which is quite remarkable. So the government has got this problem. The reason they've used all along is that if they free them, they'll set a precedent and people smuggling will start again. I think we can all agree that the people smuggling business has been shattered. It's broken. It won't come back. So there's no reason now to keep these people locked up. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I'm not sure that Alex Hawke's just going to stand up there tomorrow and make an announcement that the Biloela family can go back to Biloela and go on with their lives.
But surely they can't keep talking about this. Like, at what point?
The problem is there is no other decision that actually ends it. So if they make, I think you're right, if they make any other decision, all that does is heap the pressure on, so they have to make another decision.
They could relocate them to New Zealand. They could get New Zealanders to take them. Our government has stopped that process happening. I mean, they could make that. They could activate that.
We don't even know if they were trying that.
They can say to the family, OK, you're out of Christmas Island, but you've got to make a decision. We're still not going to let you live here. That could be what will be announced. Don't be surprised if that's what happens.
From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.